I used to think the slow unraveling of a life looked like a divorce, a funeral, or someone slamming a door. Turns out it looks a lot more like laughter echoing in your kitchen while you're holding tongs and pretending your soul is unfolding inward. My name is Rachel. I'm 50. Or I was, when the world I'd built with every ounce of quiet loyalty started to flicker and then fade. I didn't walk away from my family because of one fight. I walked away because I finally saw the pattern, the steady drip of being forgotten, the subtle devaluation, the tiny humiliation served with a side of sarcasm. Like water wearing down a rock, I eroded until all that was left was a shell. But the moment everything clicked was on my birthday. We lived in a comfortable suburban home. Me, my husband Martin, our son Liam, and Max, our aging Labrador, who often felt like the only creature in the house who noticed when I left the room. Martin was charismatic in the way manipulators often are. Everyone's favorite guy, always harmless in his jokes. He never hit, never screamed, but somehow still managed to drain the light from me without laying a hand. I was the one who paid the bills, organized the insurance, fixed the Wi-Fi when it crashed at 2 a.m. during Liam's online finals. I never loved my IT job, but it gave us health insurance and a steady life. Martin, in the meantime, ran a series of empowerment ventures that smelled suspiciously like pyramid schemes. He called me the backbone of the house, only when his friends asked what I did. Otherwise, I was background noise. On my 50th birthday, they threw me a surprise party. Streamers, balloons, ribs I apparently was expected to grill. Nobody asked if I wanted to cook on my own damn birthday. I smiled. That's what I do. Then came the crown. It looked like a knockoff Burger King paper crown, but instead of Queen or Happy Birthday, it said Queen of Disappointments in glittery red letters. Liam handed it to me with a grin, like he'd written the best punchline of his life. Martin howled with laughter. People clapped. I laughed too, but it was a strange, hollow sound. My hands shook slightly as I tied on the apron, still trying to swallow the humiliation like dry bread. Later, when they asked me to take photos, I took dozens of them. I wasn't in a single one. When I asked Martin later if he thought the crown was funny, he didn't even look up from his phone. "You take everything so seriously these days," he muttered. It was just a joke. That night, I sat in the dark living room, the echo of their laughter still pulsing in my ears. I opened my laptop and stared at a blank search bar. My fingers hesitated. I didn't know what I was looking for. Just, not here. Eventually, I typed the name of a town I had only visited once on a work trip. Cedar Hollow. Small. Quiet. Green. It had a bookshop I remembered fondly, and a diner that served the best peach cobbler I'd ever tasted. I booked a one-way ticket. No plan, no dramatic goodbye. I left a note on the kitchen counter. I need to go. I don't think I've ever really been happy. Take care of yourselves. Rachel the first packed lightly. Just clothes, my laptop, a stack of books, and Max. No one even noticed we were gone until the next morning. And honestly, that was the clearest confirmation I'd ever had. Cedar Hollow smelled like wet pine and fresh bread. The streets were soft with fog in the morning, the kind that clung to your clothes but felt more like a blanket than a burden. Max adjusted faster than I did. Within 2 days, he had a favorite patch of grass outside the bookstore, and 3 waitresses at Gracie's table who greeted him with, "There's the gentleman," every morning. I rented a small studio above a used bookshop. The floors creaked like they had stories of their own, and the windows overlooked the diner and a rusted gas station that also sold worms. My landlord, June, was a retired mechanic with thick silver braids and eyes that saw too much without asking too much. When I paid her for 3 months in cash, she just said, "Good, you can breathe now," and handed me a mug of chamomile like we were already kin. There was no drama, no screaming matches, no one tracking me down, at least not right away. For the first time in decades, I woke up to silence that wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I started writing again. Not journaling, writing. Every slight, every receipt. The tuition I paid for Liam's college. The thousands Martin borrowed for business investments that somehow turned into spa retreats and bulk essential oils. The dental work I paid for his sister. The roof I repaired on his mother's house. The meals. The birthdays I organized. The vacations I never got to rest on because someone had to pack, book, drive, cook, clean, smile. I listed them all. And then came the crown. That glittering insult. That symbol of everything unspoken finally being said. Not with cruelty, but with indifference. And honestly, that hurt more. A week into my self-imposed exile, I finally checked my email. Dozens of messages, social posts, even voicemail transcripts forwarded to me, but one stood out. Liam. Subject line, please don't delete this. He said the party was meant to be funny, a roast, that he didn't realize the crown would sting, because I'd always seemed to take jokes well. He didn't justify, not this time. He said he'd posted, called, texted, and he just wanted me to know I mattered. That line broke me more than the crown. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I did. And it came too late. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready, but I saved it. I reread it, and then I went back to my list, because by then, something had shifted. I didn't want revenge that left broken glass or empty bank accounts. I wanted consequence. I wanted clarity. I wanted them, all of them, to feel the absence of the invisible scaffolding I'd always been. So I called the financial advisor, Dale. We'd worked together for years. Calm man, numbers guy. I told him to move every investment into a private account under my name. He paused. Are you sure, Rachel? That's a big step. I'm sure. Does Martin know? He will. Then I shut off the automatic payments for the mortgage, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, all the things Martin hadn't touched in 15 years. I'd built their world. Now, I would let them watch it wobble. I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. 3 days after I turned off the autopay, my old phone's silent since I powered it on buzzed alive like it remembered how to scream. 22 missed calls, all from Martin. 3 voicemails I never played. I blocked his number, deleted the messages, and felt nothing but a mild hum of relief. Then came the Facebook fallout. First, Liam posted a picture of the 3 of us from his high school graduation. I was in the corner of the frame, holding the camera remote like a prop, my smile a little too rehearsed. His caption, if anyone sees my mom, we're sorry. We didn't realize how much we took her for granted. We just want her to come home. The comments flooded in. She was always so quiet. She did everything for you guys. Where is she now? Martin, ever the master of the vague emotional bait, followed up with a post on his timeline. When someone walks away instead of talking it out like an adult, it says more about them than you. Cue the chorus of sympathy. MLM friends, church ladies, people who thought they knew me. Hearts, hugs, prayers. But buried beneath all the noise were quiet comments that hit like pinpricks of light. From an old coworker, Rachel always seemed like she was carrying the whole house on her back. A parent from Liam's old school, she never missed a single parent-teacher night. You were lucky to have her. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't need to. The silence was already working. Then, the real unraveling began. Martin had no idea how the mortgage worked. The bills, the passwords. The accounts were in both our names. Sure, but for 15 years, I'd been the only one moving money around. He didn't even know the utilities had online logins. He thought lights just stayed on. 2 weeks after the party, I got a certified letter, forwarded from our old address to the studio above the bookshop. June, my landlord, handed it to me like it might bite. You okay, sugar? Yeah, I said. Just paperwork. She didn't ask more. She never did. That was her gift. The letter was from Martin's lawyer. He was filing for separation. Not just that he was demanding alimony, citing emotional abandonment. He was also requesting the majority of our joint assets, arguing that, as a dependent spouse, he was entitled. I laughed out loud, not a bitter chuckle, but a full, belly-deep laugh that startled Max awake from his nap. Because what Martin didn't know, what none of them ever bothered to ask, was that I kept records. I'm an it woman. I back up everything. Tax returns, wire transfers, college tuition breakdowns, car loan co-signatures, SSSS spreadsheets of bills, itemized by year. Even therapy receipts for Liam's counseling after his first breakup. I had it all. So, I called Tessa, my lawyer. She was younger than me, razor sharp, and had once told me her dream was to legally bulldoze egos. I liked her immediately. When I handed her the file folder and USB drive, she whistled. "Rachel, this is gold. I don't want to destroy him," I said. "I just want the truth to stick. You're about to become the most organized hurricane I've ever represented." Over the next few weeks, while Martin posted sad quotes and Liam pinged me sporadically, we built a case. Quietly, carefully, and still, I didn't reach out. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was just letting gravity work. The mortgage payments defaulted. The utility companies began sending disconnection notices. Liam's car loan, which I had been quietly covering, bounced for the first time. His bank called him, not me. Then came the messages. First, "Liam, Mom, what's going on? Dad says you're freezing us out. I don't even know how to pay for my car without you. Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Then Martin, "This isn't funny anymore. Come home. We can work this out." Still nothing. Then he tried a different tactic. "You've made your point, but you're hurting Liam." That line got to me. Not because he was right, but because I'd once spent years believing that guilt was love in disguise. That if I felt bad enough, maybe I mattered. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Sometimes the only way to teach someone to value you is to let them live without the parts of you they never thanked. That weekend, I took Max for a walk through Cedar Hollow. Gracie's table was lit with soft yellow lights, jazz humming from the jukebox inside. June had hung flower baskets on the shop's porch, and the bookstore below had a window display with a sign that read, "Not all who wander are lost. Some just finally left." I stopped and stared at it. My throat tightened not with sadness, but with the strange ache of being seen, of being named without needing to explain. Later that night, I got a voicemail. This time, I listened. It was Liam. His voice was quieter than usual, like he was trying not to wake someone. "Mom, things are bad here. Dad's freaking out. The house is cold. He doesn't know how to reset the thermostat. He keeps blaming you for everything. I didn't tell him, but I think I'm starting to understand why you left." A pause. "Please, please call me." Max, curled up beside me, looked up like he could feel my pulse pick up. That voicemail? That was the crack. The beginning of something shifting. I still didn't call back, but I did something else. I texted one line, "I heard your message. I'm okay. I'm not ready to come back, but I'm listening." Hours passed before he replied. "Thank you. Just knowing that helps." A step. A sliver of bridge, not yet walked on, but built. Meanwhile, Tessa filed the motion to contest Martin's claims. The documentation was airtight. We included photos, text messages, invoices, event plans, all the things I'd done quietly, without applause that had kept that family upright. And we included the crown. Yes, that crown. Queen of disappointments and glitter and cardboard. It was Exhibit C. "Is this petty?" I asked Tessa. "No," she said. "It's evidence of public humiliation by the party seeking damages. Keep it." I went to bed that night with the windows open, the sound of rain on cedar trees, Max breathing slow beside me, and the kind of silence that doesn't echo loneliness but peace. For the first time in decades, I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the bridge. I wasn't the ghost holding the house together. I was just Rachel. And that was more than enough. It was a Saturday morning when Liam showed up. Cedar Hollow had just started to bloom into spring. The trees looked like they'd been dipped in pale green, and the bookstore below my studio had placed a folding chair outside, propped with a handwritten chalkboard. The world is quiet here. You're allowed to breathe. Max and I were returning from our walk. I had a paper bag from Gracie's table. In one hand, they'd given me extra biscuits for the gentleman, and Max was trotting along at half speed, like he'd memorized every sidewalk crack in the town. I turned the corner and saw a rental car parked just a little too crooked outside the antique shop. Then I saw him, Liam, leaning against the hood, hood up, arms crossed, looking like every inch of the teenager he once was when I told him no, he couldn't go to that concert on a school night. Same stance, same defiance. But the eyes, they weren't the same. They were heavier, a little hollow. I stopped a few feet away. Max barked once, softly, like he recognized him but wasn't quite sure what to do about it. Liam's face softened as he bent down and rubbed Max's head. He remembers me, he said, half smiling. He's got a better memory than most people. I flinched at that. I wasn't sure if it was meant to be an apology or an excuse. He stood up slowly. I didn't tell Dad I was coming. I had to see you. I nodded once, not speaking, and motioned toward the narrow staircase that led to my studio above the shop. He followed. Inside, the room smelled like old paper and coffee. There were books stacked unevenly on the desk, a blanket thrown over the arm of the worn-out armchair, and Max's bed in the corner by the radiator. A half-finished jigsaw puzzle sat on the coffee table. Liam stood awkwardly by the door until I offered him coffee. He accepted it, black, no sugar, which made me raise an eyebrow. He used to put half a cup of milk in it, just to get through. He sat on the edge of the couch like it might reject him. I didn't get it before, he said finally. I thought you were just being dramatic, that you left because of one stupid joke. But now? He paused, took a sip of the too bitter coffee, and winced. Dad cries, he said, without looking up. Not because he misses you. He cries because the water heater's busted and he doesn't know who to call. He cries because the credit cards keep getting declined and because his business partner bailed. He cries because I told him I wasn't sure if I wanted to live there anymore. I watched him carefully. He wasn't telling me this to manipulate. Not anymore. He looked tired, not just physically, something deeper. Like he'd finally noticed how heavy the air had always been, and only now realized he'd learned to breathe it. I miss you, he said, but not just because things are hard. I miss you because you were always there, and I never said thank you. Not once. Silence settled between us like fog rolling in. Soft, thick, undeniable. I think I was becoming like him, Liam whispered, making jokes, rolling my eyes, dismissing you. It was easy. He made it easy. You didn't push back, so I never had to think about it. I turned away from him and stared out the window. The rain had started again, light, tapping against the glass like it was asking for permission to come in. I wasn't angry when I left, I said, my voice low. I was just done. I had nothing left to explain. No more versions of the same conversation that ended in me being told I wasn't too sensitive. I left because I couldn't keep being a ghost. Liam nodded, but his eyes were wet now. He didn't try to wipe the tears away. I get it, he said. Not all of it, not yet. But I'm trying to. He looked around the small room again, at the books, the puzzle, the coffee mug I hadn't washed, the small life I had built that somehow felt more real than the big one I'd left behind. It's not much, he said gently, but it feels more like a home than our house ever did. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. I didn't comfort him. I didn't reach across the space between us. I let him sit in the discomfort, because I'd sat in it for years, quietly, without complaint, swallowing every little slight and calling it love. He stood up, finally, and walked to the door. Then paused, hand on the knob. I hope, he said, his voice cracking. I hope someday I earn the chance to be part of your life again. I didn't answer. Not then. I just watched him go. When the door clicked shut, Max got up, stretched, and rested his head on my foot. The silence returned, but this time it didn't feel so final. Later that night, I called Tessa. "It's time," I said. And when she asked what I meant, I didn't hesitate. "Let's go to court." 3 months later, I stood outside the courthouse in a slate gray suit I'd only worn once before Liam's graduation. I remember standing in the background of photos that day, the ones where I'd held the camera, directed the poses, and still ended up cropped out. This time, I wasn't in the background. The morning air was thick and humid. Max wasn't with me. I'd left him with June, who gave him scrambled eggs and belly rubs and promised to teach him how to open screen doors with his nose. "Go win this thing," she said as I walked out. "Or at least don't let them make you disappear again." The courtroom was quieter than I'd imagined. No movie theatrics. Just wood-paneled walls, the shuffle of legal pads, and a judge who looked more like a sleepy librarian than a dispenser of justice. Martin sat across from me, black suit, a somber expression that would have looked sincere if I hadn't spent 20 years learning how performative his grief could be. His lawyer did the talking, said Martin had been emotionally abandoned, that I'd left without warning, that he had relied on me for emotional and financial support for years and was now facing hardship because of my sudden and irresponsible departure. Martin dabbed at his eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I didn't flinch. Then Tessa stood. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't posture. She just laid it out. Bank statements, mortgage history, the fact that I'd paid every utility bill since 2007, that Martin hadn't logged into a billing portal in over a decade, that I'd paid for Liam's entire college education, including housing, meal plans, and therapy during his sophomore year depression. Tessa read the list like poetry. Deliberate, measured. Every sentence another plank in the bridge from my silence to their consequences. And then she held up the crown. Yes, that stupid paper crown. "Your Honor," she said, "this was presented to my client at a public event meant to honor her 50th birthday. It reads Queen of Disappointments." It was accompanied by laughter, social media posts, and messages mocking her emotional response. It became the moment my client realized she was no longer seen as a partner in her home, but as a punchline. The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing slightly. He asked if we had documentation of the posts. We did. Screenshots, tags, captions with LOL. She didn't even react. Martin's lawyer objected, claimed it was taken out of context. Just a family joke. Tessa didn't blink. If being mocked, ignored, and undervalued is the joke, then Rachel spent 2 decades as the punchline. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I didn't abandon my family. I stopped being part of a performance. I stopped pretending everything was okay so they could keep laughing. The courtroom was still. No dramatic gasps, just silence. Then the judge spoke. He ruled in my favor. The house would be sold. The proceeds divided 70/30ths, favoring me based on financial contribution. Martin's request for alimony? Denied. The claim of emotional abandonment? Unsupported. The judge's exact words: "What was presented here is not a case of abandonment. It's a case of long-standing imbalance," finally corrected. Martin didn't look at me when the ruling was read. He stared straight ahead, jaw tight. I didn't smile. There was nothing joyful about it, only necessary. As I walked out of the courthouse, he caught up to me in the hallway. "This isn't fair," he hissed, low and bitter. "You made me look like the bad guy." I turned to him, met his eyes for the first time in years, and said, "I didn't need to make you look like anything. You handled that just fine yourself." He flinched like I'd slapped him, then turned and walked away, shoulders hunched. 1 week later, I officially signed the final documents. I transferred my name off the house. Then I wired Liam the balance remaining on his car loan on one condition: He was responsible for all future payments. No more co-signing. No more safety nets. He agreed without hesitation. We didn't talk every day, not even every week, but sometimes he'd call, just to talk, not to ask, not to beg, just to share. One night, he asked for advice on something small, how to unclog a sink. I almost cried. I stayed in Cedar Hollow. I still walked Max every morning, drank lukewarm coffee from Gracie's table, and fixed vintage radios at a tiny repair shop run by a retired sound engineer named Iris, who paid me in cash and compliments. It didn't pay much, but it paid enough. More importantly, it didn't cost me my sense of self. One evening, Liam came back to visit. He brought a cardboard box of peach cobbler from Gracie's and sat on the edge of the porch, legs swinging over like he did when he was a kid on our back deck. "You're not who I thought you were," he said, staring out into the misty trees. "You're more." I didn't say anything, just watched the sun dip low, turning the cedar trees into shadows. "I'm glad you left," he said quietly, "because now I get to actually meet you." I smiled, soft and tired. "Me too." He paused. "Do you think you'll ever come back?" I shook my head. Not unkindly. "I'm already home." Story 2. Let me tell you a story. The kind that makes you question how many red flags you can ignore before they turn into a whole damn parade. It all started when my husband and I were invited to join his family on a vacation to Hilton Head Island. I'll call him Ryan. 35, charming in public, avoidant in private. I was 33, optimistic to a fault, and always the one making excuses for his family's coldness. His parents, Peter and Elaine, were the kind of people who would tell you they were just traditional while dismissing your very existence at the dinner table. They always made me feel like a +1 to my own marriage. Still, I went along with it. I wanted to believe this trip could be different, that maybe, after 5 years of being married to their son, they'd finally accept me. Spoiler alert, they didn't. We got to the resort late in the afternoon. It was gorgeous, palm trees lining the drive, ocean breeze drifting through the open-air lobby, that kind of coastal quiet that tricks you into thinking peace is possible. For the briefest moment, I let myself hope. Maybe this was the fresh start I'd been waiting for. That night, we went to a seafood place Peter had been raving about. They had reserved a long table for the whole family, and as I moved to sit beside Ryan, Peter stopped me. "Oh no, that's not quite right," he said, pointing to a small table a few feet away. "That one's for you." I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke, but Elaine didn't even glance up from the menu. "It's just how we do things," she said flatly. "Ryan?" He just muttered, "It's their way," and sat down. I sat alone, like a tourist who'd crashed someone else's family reunion. I told myself maybe it was a cultural quirk. Maybe they had some old school belief about in-laws and seating arrangements. But the next morning erased that hope. I came down early for breakfast and couldn't find anyone. After some wandering, I spotted them already eating, laughing, mid-meal, without me. No one had thought to wake me, or text me, or include me. When I confronted Ryan, he gave the same tired excuse. "It's just how they are." I asked why he hadn't said anything. He just sighed, like I was being difficult. By day 3, the pattern was locked in. I was invisible. Every meal, solo. Every activity, they somehow forgot to tell me. They went on a sunset boat ride, did a wine tasting, and even visited a private art exhibit. I found out through Instagram. When I confronted Ryan again, he hit me with the same line. "It's just how they are." Like that was supposed to excuse the fact that I was being treated like an outsider in my own relationship. By day 4, something shifted in me. Not all at once, just a slow burn that started in my chest and spread until I couldn't ignore it anymore. They wanted me separate? Fine. I'd show them what separate really meant. That night, while they were off drinking wine and taking selfies like the perfect nuclear family, I made a few calls. Remember how I said I was the one who planned the trip? That I booked the hotel, the rental car, The excursions, yeah, all under my name. My credit card, my email. Their entire vacation was mine to pull apart. And I did. I canceled their rooms, the rental car, the spa Elaine had been counting down the days to, the restaurant Peter had been gloating about for weeks, gone. Poof. Their entire itinerary vanished. Then I packed my bags, grabbed the rental, and drove out of Hilton Head like I was escaping a cult. I booked myself a suite in Charleston, beachfront, balcony, robes so soft they felt illegal. I ordered room service, kicked back, and watched the waves like they were applauding me. For the first time in days, I felt like I existed. Meanwhile, back at the resort, chaos erupted. Phone buzzing, missed calls, dozens of texts. From Ryan, where are you? What the hell is going on? You need to fix this. Eventually, the first picked up. Where are you? He barked. Charleston, the first replied, sipping my coffee. You canceled everything. Yup. Do you have any idea what you've done? Oh, I know exactly what I've done. I gave you what you wanted. Distance. He didn't know what to say. I could hear Elaine yelling in the background, Peter shouting at hotel staff. Ryan's voice dropped into that dangerous, quiet tone. My parents are stranded. Oh no, I said, all mock sympathy. That must be so uncomfortable. Then I hung up. They spent the night in a roadside motel, 20 minutes from the resort, sharing a room with flickering lights and the unmistakable scent of mildew. No rental car meant expensive ride shares. The restaurant was fully booked. Elaine's spa refused to squeeze her in. Cue meltdown. I got it all secondhand through Ryan's increasingly frantic texts. Mom's freaking out. Dad's losing it. You humiliated us. And here's the twist. Just when I thought the worst was behind me, Ryan's cousin, let's call her Natalie, messaged me. Honestly, good for you, she wrote. They did the exact same thing to Ryan's ex. Wait, ex? That was the moment the whole story started to unravel. So there I was, sitting on a balcony in Charleston with ocean wind in my hair and a mimosa in hand, when Natalie, Ryan's cousin, dropped the bombshell. They did the same thing to his ex. I blinked. Reread the message 3 times like it might magically mean something else. But no, she meant it exactly how it sounded. Me, wait, what do you mean? Natalie, same exact setup. They brought her on a family trip, treated her like garbage, made her eat alone, excluded her from everything. She left halfway through, divorced Ryan a month later. I sat there frozen, not just because of what she said, but because I never knew about any of this. Ryan told me they'd just grown apart, said it was mutual, peaceful, no drama. That's how he'd described it. But now, that didn't just sound like a lie. It sounded like a cover-up. I fired off another message. Me, why didn't anyone tell me this before? Natalie, honestly, we thought you already knew. We figured if he was bringing you on the trip, he must have been honest with you. Guess not, guess not. I spent the rest of that night not sleeping, just thinking, replaying the last few years of our marriage. All the times I brushed off the passive-aggressive digs, the weird silences, the feeling like I was somehow always one step outside the circle. I thought I was being overly sensitive. Turns out I was just being gaslit. The next day, Ryan called again. I let it ring, then answered. I needed to hear what he'd say, just to see if he'd own any of it. I need you to come back, he said. No hello, no are you okay, just orders. You abandoned us. I kept my voice calm. You mean like how you all abandoned me? In plain sight? That's not fair, he snapped. You're blowing this way out of proportion. You know how my parents are. I laughed. Yeah, I do now. Silence. Who told you? He asked eventually. That was all I needed to hear. You just admitted it, Ryan. Click. I ended the call. That confirmed everything. He knew. He knew what they did to me, and to the woman before me, and he let it happen anyway. He probably thought I'd just take it, like she did, until she didn't. But here's the part that messed with my head the most. What else had he lied about? I did some digging. Basic Facebook creeping. Found his ex-wife. Let's call her Rachel. Couldn't see much. Her profile was locked down. But her sister Lauren? Wide open. One post, from about 2 years ago, stopped me cold. Never let a man's family convince you you're the problem. We tried to warn her. At least she's free now. There were comments. And guess who I saw? Natalie again, saying, "It was awful watching that happen to her. I'm glad she's out." I sent Lauren a message. Nothing fancy. "Hey, this is probably weird, but I think we need to talk." She replied within 10 minutes. "I was wondering when you'd reach out." That line hit me like a punch. When, not if. Like everyone had been waiting for me to wake up and see the pattern. Me, so, you know who I am? Lauren, yeah, we've been watching it happen again. Same script, different woman. That conversation unraveled everything. Lauren told me Rachel had gone through the same nightmare. Isolated on a vacation, ignored, pushed out, and painted as the problem when she finally pushed back. Lauren, he always finds women who try to keep the peace. The kind who want to fix things. The kind who hope love can soften people like his parents. But it doesn't. It just drains them. She was right. I thought if I just loved harder, gave more, proved myself, they'd come around. They didn't. They never planned to. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hi, this is Officer Walker from the Hilton Head PD. We need to speak with you regarding a missing persons report filed by your husband." My jaw dropped. I called the number immediately. "Ma'am," the officer said, "we received a report that you left the resort without informing anyone, and your husband expressed concern for your well-being." I stared at the ceiling. I had to take a slow breath to keep my voice steady. "I'm fine," I said. "I'm not missing. I left voluntarily. My husband has been calling and texting nonstop. He knows where I am." There was a pause. Then, the officer asked, "Would you like to formally request no further contact?" I didn't even hesitate. Yes. That was the first legal line drawn. The first domino. And just like that, it became clear. This wasn't just emotional neglect. It was control. Ryan wasn't scared for me. He was scared of losing control over me. Right after that, the messages from his mom started coming in. "Elaine, queen of icy smiles. I can't believe you humiliated our family like this. You made Ryan involve the police. Do you understand how that looks? This family's done nothing but welcome you. If you don't come back, Ryan will make things very difficult for you." That last one? That was it. The line crossed. The warning became a threat. They weren't just trying to freeze me out anymore. They were trying to break me, force me back into submission. But I had one more move left, and it wasn't silence. I booked a small conference room at my hotel in Charleston, sent one invite to Ryan, CC'd Peter, Elaine, and Natalie. Because if they wanted this to turn into a game of power, I was going to play it with the lights on. The next morning they showed up. Ryan came in first, tense, jaw tight. Elaine and Peter followed, clearly fuming. Natalie slipped in quietly, unsure of which side she was supposed to be on, but I could tell. A part of her was rooting for me. I sat at the head of the table, calm. "Glad you could all make it," I said. "What the hell is this?" Ryan snapped. "A conversation," I replied. "One I've been owed for years." Elaine rolled her eyes. "This is ridiculous." I looked her dead in the eye. "You're right. You treated me like I wasn't family, so I made it official." Peter scoffed. "You're being emotional." I smiled. "You'd be surprised what clarity looks like on a woman who stopped begging to be accepted." Ryan reached out like he wanted to diffuse things. "We can fix this. You don't fix a rotting foundation." I cut in. "You walk away." Then I pulled out my phone and played a voice memo. Lauren's words echoing across the table. "He always finds women who try to fix things." I dropped the final card on the table, a printout of Elaine's threatening text. Natalie leaned in, eyes wide. Ryan went pale. "Elaine?" She said nothing. That's when I knew I was done. You all tried to shrink me into something manageable, I said, standing up. But I outgrew this circus. And then I walked out. I walked out of that hotel conference room and didn't look back. Not at Ryan. Not at Elaine. Not even at Natalie. Though she was the only one who looked at me with something like understanding. The Charleston sun hit me full in the face when I stepped outside. Warm, bright, and honest. No shadows. It felt like something was finally aligned. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. That's a powerful thing. Being done. After that meeting, everything moved fast. I called a divorce attorney the next day. Told her everything. She listened quietly, then asked one question. Do you want this fast, or do you want it thorough? Both, I said. She smiled. Then we start today. Ryan tried, of course. A man like him doesn't lose his grip easily. First came the guilt messages, photos from our wedding, old voicemails forwarded back to me with "remember this?" attached. Then came the bargaining. Let's do therapy. Let's take space, not split. Let me fix it. But the thing was, I didn't need fixing. I needed freedom. So I didn't answer, not once. Instead, I spent that time rebuilding, piece by piece, quietly. I signed a lease on a small cottage near the water. Bright kitchen, soft yellow walls, no ghosts. I got my name back too. The legal change was small, but the feeling? Huge. Like shaking off a coat that never fit. Word got around. I knew it would. Families like Ryan's? They don't go quietly. They build narratives. I became the ungrateful one, the overly sensitive one, the one who blew up a perfectly good marriage because of a seating chart. But the truth has a way of leaking out. Natalie messaged me a week later. They're falling apart. She didn't mean it as gossip, just observation. Ryan had apparently started snapping at everyone, yelling at his parents, fighting with coworkers, spiraling. Elaine stopped going to brunch with her country club friends. After one of them asked why I'd filed for a protective contact order. Peter lost his mind when he had to rent his own car on a business trip. That's the thing about control. When you live your whole life holding people in place, you forget what happens when someone walks away. You fall. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I didn't light a candle or post cryptic quotes online. I just kept going, quiet, steady, like the tide. But one night, about 6 months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Ryan. It was short. Just one line. I see it now. I'm sorry. I sat there staring at the screen, my phone warm in my palm. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I didn't feel anything, really, because I knew he did see it now. Too late. I didn't reply, just deleted the message and placed my phone face down on the table. And that was it. No final monologue. No grand exit speech. Just silence. The peaceful kind, not the weaponized kind I'd lived with for years. People always talk about revenge like it's fire and fury, smashing windows, screaming matches, courtroom drama. But mine wasn't that. It was stillness, boundaries, paperwork, a withdrawal so quiet they didn't realize they lost until I was already gone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Just leave. Now, I wake up to ocean air. I paint again. I drink coffee on my front steps and wave at neighbors. I go days without thinking about Ryan. Weeks, even. But sometimes, just sometimes, when the breeze picks up and I catch a scent of something familiar, like hotel shampoo or crisp white linens, I remember Hilton Head. I remember sitting at that lonely table wondering what I did wrong, and then I smile. Because I know the truth now, I didn't do anything wrong. I just finally did something right. Story 3. You ever walk into a room thinking it's your moment, only to realize you're just background noise in someone else's highlight reel? That was me, Friday night, at a trendy, dimly lit rooftop restaurant downtown. The kind of place where the wine's overpriced and the air smells like accomplishment. It was supposed to be my celebration. I'd given 6 years to this company, 6 years of skipping vacations, babysitting chaos, covering for others, and quietly keeping the wheels turning when management was too clueless to notice the rust. My boss, Marcus, had been dropping not-so-subtle hints for months. "Senior strategy lead is yours," he'd say. "Just a matter of timing." Well, tonight was the time. I even wore my promotion dress, sleek black, simple heels, nothing flashy. I wasn't trying to steal the spotlight. I was supposed to be the spotlight. My coworkers were already 2 glasses deep when Marcus stood up at the head of the table, tapping his spoon against a whiskey glass like a wedding toast. Conversation died down. Forks paused. I sat up a little straighter, and then he said her name. "Let's take a moment to acknowledge someone exceptional. In just 4 months, she's demonstrated sharp thinking, incredible leadership, and a creative spark that's inspired all of us. That's why I'm thrilled to announce." I didn't hear the rest. I didn't need to. It was Jess, the new hire, 26, fresh from a consulting firm with shiny credentials and 0 battle scars. I blinked. My face didn't move. I clapped when everyone else did. Even raised my glass like a good sport. Inside, though, something snapped. Marcus glanced my way like he'd just remembered I existed. And of course, "Maya, you've always been such a valuable part of the team." Wow. A footnote at my own party. I laughed. The kind of laugh that masks a scream. "Jess absolutely deserves it," I said, smiling so hard my jaw ached. "She's already doing more than you were," Marcus added with a chuckle, like we were sharing a joke. Jess looked mortified. "Oh, I wouldn't say that," but it was too late. The words were already floating in the air like a balloon I couldn't pop. I sat through dessert, made small talk, nodded like I wasn't bleeding internally, and when I finally walked out into the night, cool wind brushing against my face, I opened my phone, clicked into my email, and typed 2 simple lines. Subject, resignation letter Marcus. Find my official resignation attached. Effective immediately. Regards, Maya. I hovered for a second, then hit send. Relief tasted like the first breath after nearly drowning. But that wasn't the end. That was just the reset button. Monday morning, the office smelled like burnt coffee and half-hearted ambition. I walked in like I owned the place, even though I was walking away from it. My resignation was sitting in Marcus's inbox, but I hadn't said a word in person. I wanted him to come to me. Right on cue, his door flung open. "Maya, in my office." Now, the floor went quiet. Eyebrows lifted over cubicles. Someone actually dropped their bagel. I stood up calmly, smoothed the crease in my shirt, and stepped into his office. He was already behind his desk, my printed resignation clutched like a subpoena. "You're leaving?" he asked, blinking like I'd just confessed to arson. I nodded. "Effective immediately." "But why? This is sudden. We didn't discuss, kind of like Jess's promotion?" His jaw tensed. "That wasn't personal. She just outperformed expectations. She's been here 4 months." He leaned forward. "You know I value you, right? You've been with us forever. I don't want to lose that." "You had me," I said, voice even. "But when it mattered, I was just another cog, a backup plan. The one who didn't need praise because she just got it done." He rubbed his temples. "Maybe I handled it wrong, but walking away like this, it's emotional. Think about your future." "Oh, I have. For weeks." He narrowed his eyes. "What's your plan? Go work for a competitor? Don't forget you signed a non-compete." I smiled. "I don't need to compete with you. I'm building something better." His eyes flicked up. "What does that mean? You remember Daniel Wu, the coup you pushed out last year?" He froze. "Daniel called me 3 months ago. He's launching a boutique strategy firm. Asked me to lead operations. At the time, I said no. I was loyal." I paused. Let him marinate in that. But Friday night changed everything. I called him back. "I'm starting next week." The silence? Delicious. You're leaving for Daniel? The first nodded. As director of strategy, full autonomy, respect included. He sat back, stunned. We can match whatever he's offering. I stood. It was never about the money. And I left. Calm, clean, quiet. Back to the floor, I sent my resignation company-wide. No speech, no fanfare, just the facts. Subject, official resignation effective today. Thank you for the opportunity. The dominoes started falling instantly. Heads peeked up from desks. Slack blew up. People came by, whispering variations of, "Are you serious?" And "Good for you." Even Jess looked shaken. She didn't come over, but she didn't need to. The guilt was painted across her face like foundation too thick to hide the truth. I didn't hate her. She played the game and got lucky. It was Marcus I had a problem with. As I packed up my things, a few folks actually clapped. Quietly, but it counted. And just before I left, Marcus sent another meeting invite. Subject, urgent. Let's talk. I didn't reply, but I did show up. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept all weekend. Dark circles, collar askew, eyes darting, like he was trying to gauge whether I'd come in swinging or smiling. I gave him neither. I sat down across from him, calm as a still lake. "Thanks for coming," he said, like we were old friends catching up instead of the guy who just lost his best employee by trying to hand her seat to someone new. I nodded once. "You said it was urgent?" He folded his hands. "Look, Maya, I won't beat around the bush. I misjudged. We misjudged. I don't want to lose you." I didn't respond right away. Just watched him squirm. "I know you're upset," he continued, "and rightfully so. Maybe I didn't realize how critical you've been to this place." "Maybe," I echoed, my tone flat. He winced. "Okay, definitely. You've been holding this team together longer than I care to admit. And yet, when it was time to reward that work, I screwed up," he said quickly, almost too fast. "I thought bringing in fresh blood would energize the team. I didn't expect the blowback." There it was. Not guilt, just consequence. People aren't energized, Marcus. They're confused. Morale's in the gutter. Rachel told me half the team's considering jumping ship. His lips pressed together. Jess is trying, but she's overwhelmed. This isn't on her. I never said it was. He leaned in. "What if we fix this? What if I bring you back director title, bump in salary, full authority over operations?" I tilted my head. "Interesting offer. Why now? You've proven your value." "Marcus," the first said slowly, "did I not prove it the last 6 years?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I stood, smoothing my sleeves. If I hadn't quit, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And that's exactly the problem. He stood too, a little too fast. Don't make this about pride." "It's not pride," I replied. "It's self-respect." And with that, I walked out. Again. Starting over, not settling Monday came. And this time, I wasn't dreading the office. I stood outside a sleek glass building with a logo that read, Wu and Hayes Strategy Group. Just 15 people inside, but something about it felt alive. Fresh paint, open ideas. No one here looked like they were dying inside on a Monday morning. Daniel met me at the front with a warm smile. "You're early. I'm ready. Let's get to it." That was the entire welcome. No speeches, no fluff, just respect. He introduced me to the team, gave me a proper office with windows, imagine that, and handed me a short list. 3 major accounts we're hoping bring in. "They asked about you." I blinked. "They did?" He nodded. "Word spreads fast in this town." It does. By midweek, 2 of those clients were already scheduling consultations with me, specifically. Not because I chased them. I didn't even call. They came on their own. Turns out, when you spend years quietly holding things together, people notice. Even if your boss doesn't. Meanwhile, back at the wreckage Thursday evening, I was sorting through an onboarding document when I got a message from Rachel. "Rachel, you didn't hear this from me. But Marcus is spiraling. Jess cried during the leadership huddle this morning. 2 clients dropped out, said they didn't feel confident anymore. I let out a slow breath and took a sip of tea. Not joy, not revenge, just balance. Rachel, everyone knows you kept the ship afloat. We just didn't say it out loud. Until now. There was a second message right after. Rachel, one more thing, client services says Dawson and Company wants to follow you. I blinked. Dawson and Company was huge. I'd nurtured that account for years. They were loyal, but I figured they'd stay put for stability. Guess not. The real power shift Friday morning. I walked into my new office like I'd been there for years. Daniel popped his head in before lunch. "You're free around 2?" he asked. "Dawson wants a full strategy overhaul. They asked if you'd lead." "Absolutely." He smiled, almost like he already expected that answer. "You're making waves." It felt good. Not revenge good. Right good. Like the universe realigning itself. When 2 p.m. hit, I led that call. Confident, clear, calm. The way I always worked, just now with people who respected it. Desperate emails and burnt bridges by 5 p.m. I saw it in my inbox. Subject, proposal for discussion from Marcus. Of course, I didn't open it immediately. I let it sit there, like a stale donut in the break room. An hour later, I finally clicked it. "Maya, I'd like to discuss an opportunity to bring you back into a leadership role. I believe we can come to a mutually beneficial agreement. Let's talk. Regards." Marcus. I stared at it for a while. The same man who had laughed when he told me to take notes from a woman 4 months into the job was now trying to draft me back like a Hail Mary play. I typed slowly. "Marcus, I'm available for a quick call Monday at 10 a.m. Best?" Maya, I didn't say looking forward to it, because I wasn't. I already knew how that meeting would end. The return, but not for redemption. When I walked back into my old office building Monday morning, I felt nothing. No nostalgia, no nerves, just a curious calm. The receptionist didn't know whether to greet me or avoid eye contact. I walked straight through to Marcus's office. He stood when I entered, smiled tight, eyes hopeful. "Maya, you look good." "I am good." We sat. He cleared his throat. "I'll cut to the chase. The board is anxious. You leaving has caused more waves than expected. Clients, team morale, operations." I raised a brow. "You mean the stuff I managed for 6 years?" He flinched. "Yes." He slid a folder across the desk. "Here's what I'm offering. Full control of strategy, ops. VP title. Salary increase. Your own team." I scanned it, then looked up. "If I hadn't quit, would you be offering this?" He hesitated. "It's complicated." "No, it's not." I stood, sliding the folder back toward him. "You didn't see my worth until it became inconvenient not to. Maya, don't throw away what we built." "I didn't. You did." He opened his mouth again, but I was already walking. Just before I left, I looked over my shoulder. "You know, Marcus, maybe you should start taking notes." By the time I got back to Wu and Hayes that Monday afternoon, I felt lighter. Not because I crushed some enemy or made a dramatic scene, but because I'd said what needed to be said. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't even flinch. I just told the truth to his face. And that was enough. There's a quiet kind of strength in not needing to be right in public. Just knowing you were never wrong. New roots, no looking back. The weeks that followed flew by. Every day at Wu and Hayes felt like the opposite of the last 6 years. People didn't just pretend to value your ideas, they built on them. I wasn't babysitting projects anymore. I was leading them, building systems from scratch, setting culture instead of surviving it. 3 of my old company's clients officially moved over by the end of the month. Not because I pitched them, not even because I tried. They asked for me by name. "We're not comfortable with the new leadership." Maya understood our business. She anticipated problems before we even spotted them. Honestly, she was your company. Each time I'd pause after the call and just breathe, not out of stress, but something else. Gratitude, maybe? Validation? Or just the weird, quiet peace of finally being seen. Rachel's final update one afternoon. Rachel messaged me. Rachel, it finally happened. Me. What did? Rachel, the board fired Marcus this morning. Rachel, they said the damage was reputational and structural. I let out a slow, quiet laugh. Not petty, not giddy, just right. He hadn't just underestimated me. He'd built a system where people like me were invisible until we were gone. And now he was learning what happens when invisible people disappear. The last email, a few days later, I saw his name pop up again. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Subject, no hard feelings. The email was short. Maya, I know things didn't end well between us. Still, I want you to know I hold no grudges. You are always a strong asset. I wish you the best moving forward, Marcus. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, I just didn't need to. Sometimes silence says everything. Closure isn't loud. A month after that, I was standing in my new office, watching the city light up as dusk rolled in. It had rained earlier. The pavement was still wet, reflecting red brake lights and gold window glow. Daniel knocked on my door. You've got a visitor. I turned. It was Jess. She looked different, shoulders slumped, hands clasped, like she wasn't sure if she belonged. I stepped out into the hallway. Hey, she said quietly. Hope I'm not interrupting. You're fine. What's up? I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened. She looked nervous, waiting for me to bite back. I didn't. It wasn't your fault, I said. You got offered something. You said yes. That's not a crime. She nodded slowly. Still, I should have said something. I knew it was wrong. I looked at her a long moment. So say it now. She nodded. You deserved that promotion, not me. I wasn't ready. That was all I needed. We said goodbye. She left, and I went back inside. Not angry, not satisfied, just done. 6 months later, the firm had doubled in size. My department was growing. New hires, new clients, new energy. Every week brought something fresh, a challenge, a win, a conversation that made me feel useful again. I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I was just living. I caught up with Rachel for lunch one afternoon. You're glowing, she said, sipping her iced tea. How does it feel being the one everyone bet against? I smiled. I don't even think about them anymore. That was true. There's a certain peace that comes with knowing you were never the problem, just the threat to a system that counted on you staying quiet. I don't hate Marcus. I don't pity him either. He built his kingdom on shallow praise and hollow promotions. And when it collapsed, he finally realized you don't get loyalty from people you ignore. You don't get respect from people you belittle. And you definitely don't get trust back once it's gone. Final thoughts. People think revenge is loud, explosive, a scene. But most of the time, revenge is walking away while they still think you need them. It's building something better while they're busy cleaning up what they broke. It's knowing you don't have to prove anything because your work already did. I didn't win. I just stopped playing their game. And that's the best ending I could have asked for.